Morning everybody. We're going to introduce two user interface controls to you now. We have used text boxes, labels and buttons extensively. So now we're going to have a look at checkboxes and radio buttons. Just those two. They work very well with if statements. So if I have a look at the first example, where I've got two checkboxes. Take note, when I run a program that's got text boxes on the user interface, the user can select or deselect the checkboxes. The checkboxes are normally not related to one another then as well. So the user can enter a number, display it straight as it is. The user can choose to increase the font size. The user can separately choose to double the number. Okay, so I can choose any of those. These allow me then different options on the input. Okay, so first of all, a checkbox can be selected or unselected, and I can have 1 or 2 or 5 checkboxes on a form, but these checkboxes are not related to one another. If I go to find and replace, in the VB editor for example, we've got two checkboxes. I can find and search for words in subfolders, in files and subfolders, and I can choose to keep the modified files open after the replace. Okay, so choices are given to the user, and they can say yes, I want to include subfolders or not, or keep the files open, yes or no. If I go have a look at the code to make this happen, then the important part is indicated over here. Every checkbox will have its own separate if statement. So over here on line 20 is the first if statement to test for the double the number checkbox, and I've got a separate if statement to change the font. That's the first thing that you need to know. The second thing is that a new type of variable is introduced to you. We can define variables of the type Boolean. This is an example. A Boolean variable then stores a true or a false result. Now, we know that if I go select a control and go to the properties, then there are already many different properties for us available. These are defined and created long ago. With a checkbox, there are few properties. We would be interested in the checked property of the checkbox. So I can add design time, set the checked property, and then automatically the checkbox would be selected as soon as the program is executed. I can also unselect it. If I so deem, then the user must select it upon their choice. Okay, and whether to select it or not at design time depends on the situation and what the user choose and your analysis of the data. So the user will say, oh, normally I want to double the number, and then you're going to make the user's life a lot easier by selecting it, pre-selecting the checkbox. Okay, you don't need to worry about changing the font. I simply wanted to display a second checkbox on the screen to show you the if statement related to that. We're not going to ask you to change any font in a program. So over here, this is the important part now. For a checkbox, I can test if the checked property would be selected or not. If the checked property is selected, then the test over there will be true. I have the option of just naming the checked property, the Boolean, because this already carries a true or a false result. Maybe a little bit easier for beginners would be to actually include the test as well, and that's perfectly fine. So over here I check if the checked property is true. If that's the case, I'm going to double the number. I save the result in the same value, so I just update the value and then it is displayed later on. So for checkboxes, to recap, single if statements, one per checkbox. Sometimes I might want to do something if the checkbox is not selected. Other times I might only want to do something if the checkbox is selected. So depending on whatever I need to do, if statement that relates to that would be coded. Okay, let's then have a look at the second example. Over here we've got a program where the user can choose what to do with the number. I'm just enlarging the user interface quickly so that we can see it clearly. The user has got the option to double the number, triple the number, half the number, or leave it as it is. Take note, radio buttons will give me one option amongst a few possible options that the user can choose. The user can't choose to double and triple the number at the same time. Only one of the options available. So if I were to run this program, I can enter a number. We can display half or double or triple of this number. If I say leave it as it is, it would be 20. So now there's 4 options. The user must choose one of those for the number. Normally we will have one of the radio buttons selected by default. How would this if statement look? I'm going to use a nested if statement because these options are all related. The user can only do one of the things. I can check if the double radio button is selected, the half radio button, the triple radio button, or the radio button that says leave the number alone. And again, I can include equal to true. This check property is a Boolean, it's true or false, depending on whether the checkbox or the radio button is selected. So either we can test for equal to true, and in this case one of these options would be selected, or we can leave it out. Just as a matter of fact, normally the clear button will set one radio button, the default, to true always. Okay, so the clear button will pick one radio button to be always true as soon as the user clears the data. So if I again run this program, enter a number, pick something, do something with the number, the moment that I pick clear, cursor goes to the number, text box, and the double radio button is selected. So if I go and choose half, display the data the moment that I clear, everything is set to the starting position. If we go have a look at the program with the check boxes, then the clear button will, in this case, deselect all the checkboxes. These checkboxes are not related, they work independently. Each one of them must be unselected. So if I run this program, doesn't matter what I do, clear will delete the data from both the two checkboxes. Like that. It's normally what we do. Okay, the important part though would be with the if statements, because we're busy with selection. Single if statements, one for every one of the checkboxes. But for radio buttons, we've got a nested if statement that will test the whole group of radio buttons. So, thank you very much.